Hi, everyone. Welcome to another lesson on the top lessons. I am your host, Kathy Inglot, and with me, I have the privilege today of having an amazing guest. Before I introduce her, I just wanted to say that it is my privilege to welcome her here today. I think the word gracious, humble, and giving are just a few of the adjectives that you all will take away from meeting her. With the utmost respect, I'm introducing you all to Dame Sheila B. Driscoll, CEO of Dame Ventures. She is a CEO, a philanthropist, a leader, someone whose generational history will not only inspire you, but will lead you through many awes that have driven me to many awes. And I'm sure you all will hear the sentiment of this story and look back and say, as I did to her, that she should A, write a book, and 2, a movie. And without further ado, welcome Dame Sheila.
Thank you. How gracious. How lovely. And such a privilege and honor to be with you, Kathy. Thank you.
No, the honor is all mine. But for those of you that have yet to meet Dame Sheila or know about her, this is the opportunity where we will discuss not only her history, but also what she does now for inspirational leadership and philanthropy. But for the history lesson, some of you may be like, who is Dame Sheila Driscoll? And if the name Driscoll rings any bell to you, it is the same Driscoll that when you go to a grocery store and you go to the berry section and you open up your blueberries, your raspberries in that white see-through shell container, it is that Driscoll that I have the privilege today to sit and not only admire, but also learn more about the lessons that she has had throughout her life. So without further ado, Dame Sheila, if I could ask you a question about your family's journey and how the Driscoll Berry legacy had started. If you can give us a little bit of that history of the Driscoll legacy.
Certainly. Thank you. It's a brilliant question. So in short, the story of my family and the Driscoll Berry legacy is not merely one of resilience and vision. It truly, Kathy, is a masterpiece of listening, a quality that set us apart and built an empire that has endured now for more than 150 years. And what I mean by that is that we just didn't hear what our community wanted and needed. We did what our competitors could not. We listened to what they weren't getting. We heard the silences in between, the unspoken desires, if you will, and the quiet needs that others overlooked. So by identifying and filling those unmet needs in ways that had never been imagined, we created something extraordinary. An enduring legacy built on trust, innovation, and an unwavering attentiveness that allowed us to adapt, flourish, and redefine what was possible. So by way of illustration, let me give you a colorful, brief recount of my family's history, probably one of the linchpin philosophies that guided our family, and then just a segue into one of the first innovations that really became the centerpiece of our business. How does that sound?
Please, I can't wait for everyone to hear because I'm so excited. I know this story and I'm like the world and the listeners will hear it.
Okay. So the legacy begins with my great-grandfather, Jeremiah Driscoll, a daring 21-year-old Irish immigrant who arrived in New York in 1853, and what I would like to think was filled with hope and a heart brimming with adventure. So with dreams as vast as the American frontier, he joined a wagon train and embarked on a harrowing 6-month journey along the Oregon Trail. Can you imagine?
I can't. I mean, and you see it in the movies, right? But to actually know someone now whose family was on that journey is such a privilege.
So he endured untold hardships to reach the rugged, beautiful Shasta County, California. So there, amidst the gold rush frenzy, and yes, my great-grandfather was one of the original 49ers, he found more than glittering nuggets. He discovered the true meaning of wealth. And striking gold in the mines, he realized that life's richest treasures lay not in extravagance, but in love, family, and purpose. So with his hard-earned proceeds, he sent for the love of his life, my great-grandmother Johanna, whose arrival to California then marked the beginning of an extraordinary partnership. And so together, they married, they planted roots, quite literally, had 9 children on a farmland he purchased in Watsonville, California, which is still there today. And so from these humble beginnings, they sowed the seeds of a legacy, cultivating both land and a family story that has flourished now for 6 generations, carrying forward their spirit of resilience, love, and vision. So you might ask, how did we do that? What was our philosophy? So our family has always been guided by an unwavering philosophy: community first. The land we tilled, the berries we cultivated, and the people who stood by us never simply were tools, Kathy, to build an empire. They were the essence of our purpose. So quiet leadership has always been at the heart of the Driscoll way. While others sought the spotlight, we focused on lifting those around us, embodying the belief that we rise by lifting others. And this ethos is not just a chapter in our history, but it's woven, Kathy, into our DNA. So from building the Strawberry Institute of California in 1942, to empowering farmers and enriching the soil that sustains us, every endeavor has been to connection and service. So to this day, the Driscoll legacy continues to grow, not through grandeur, but through quiet strength and an enduring commitment to community and innovation, which is now my perfect segue into what was the linchpin, the first piece of innovation that the Driscolls put into their business that really has been magnified now over the last 150 years. So with that, on the Driscoll Ranch in the early 1900s, the women played an essential role in every aspect of daily life, from tending the fields to feeding their families, obviously. But back then, they would use sturdy aprons to carry berries home from the fields, creating makeshift pouches, if you like, to hold the fresh fruit. However, the berries' delicate skins often left deep stains on the fabric, a persistent reminder of their hard work and a challenge to keep their aprons clean, right? It was this everyday struggle, Kathy, that sparked an idea. Watching the women tie up their aprons and carefully cradle the berries, my grandfather and his brothers realized there had to be a better way, something practical, reusable, and clean. Inspired by the woven baskets the women used for trips to the market, my grandfather and his brothers designed small wooden baskets specifically for their berries. So these lightweight baskets were easy to carry, protected the fruit, and spared the aprons from further stains. So this simple yet innovative solution not only made life easier for the women, but also laid the groundwork for Driscoll's commitment to quality and presentation. So these wooden baskets became the first recognizable packaging for the berries, blending practicality with ingenuity. So what began as a way to save aprons became a symbol of Driscoll's dedication to meeting everyday needs while honoring the women whose resourcefulness shaped their legacy. So those wooden baskets later became plastic baskets in the decades that followed, to the clamshell containers we now use today. that's how it all started.
I mean, when I heard you say the story, it is, you think of innovation as like this amazing, like out of this world product. You're thinking you're going to Mars and you're going to create something, but this at the heart of it is the everyday tool innovators do. Mm-hmm. Everyone who took a task of how do you solve for women going to market to coming home with produce that wasn't, liquefied and it wasn't worn on them. And for those of us that are like, what do you mean they didn't have a shopping bag? The answer is no, they did not have a shopping bag. They literally carried it in their hands and on them. And they had to find ways to bring that product home safely and intact. And this story, when you said it, I was like, oh my God, this is not just genius, but it's such an inspirational story of how someone thought of an idea that was right in front of them, listened to their consumer, and said, I need to develop something that will last the journey. And it's just one of those things where you go, this started with the Driscoll legacy. Like this started with the Driscoll farm and berry legacy. So when, my listeners will hopefully hear this, they will be awed as to, what your family has done, not just for the consumer, but for this country and for the world. And also it goes back to the simple story, like you said, listen to your community and bring whatever they need forward. So that's just one of the stories. I'm going to let you continue because it gets better, I promise.
Oh, well, bless you. And, here and in keeping with your incredible podcast, here's the lesson that transcends any leadership textbook. It's the power of unity through individuality. So each berry, like each person, carries its own distinct character. Yet when brought together, Kathy, they create something far greater than the sum of their parts. So this has always been the foundation of our family's approach, not merely to business, but to life itself. So we wove together generations of wisdom with the threads of modern innovation, as to what you were commenting on, nurturing an ecosystem of diversity and purpose in our teams, our fields, and our communities. So this seamless union of differences, we found not only harmony, but the strength to grow something truly extraordinary. And the second lesson I would have to bring to light out of this and to finish is listening to the silence. While many businesses assume they understand their customers' wants and needs, we never made that mistake. Instead, we cultivated the art of true attentiveness, not to so much what was being said, but to what was left unsaid. Some of our most groundbreaking innovations were born not from focus groups or surveys, but from a profound awareness of the gaps in people's lives, the unspoken challenges, the unmet desires that they might not even know how to articulate. So it was in those moments, Kathy, of silence, in the space between the words, as I had mentioned, that we learned the deepest insights emerge. So by listening to this quiet, we uncovered opportunities to create solutions that truly mattered, innovations that resonated, not because they were demanded, but because they fulfilled a need so deeply it changed lives. And there you have it.
I love it. The lessons will resonate, I'm sure, with many, many businesses and owners and creators and the next leaders of generations of what you have just mentioned, generational lessons that still to this day will hold true. On to something a little bit more personal about you and your journey. Obviously, some may think that being an heir to a Driscoll Berry legacy fortune is something that, allowed you the life of beach gazing and immense leisure, which is the opposite of what I obviously know, but my listeners will hear in a minute. Can you share with us your journey as a Driscoll heir, but also the journey of how you became a teacher to a philanthropist and what pillars you lived by that have led you now to your current book of work?
Oh, I love it. Let me see. Well, my journey from teacher to philanthropist, entrepreneur, fourth generation member of the Driscoll family, I can say is deeply intertwined, again, with the values instilled in me by my family and the core values rooted in education, giving, and higher purpose, for really kind of lack of a better term. So I chose teaching because I believe each one of us is born with a God-given talent. And mine has always been the ability to teach, to inspire, and to help others discover their own gifts. I think that's it in a nutshell. And my philanthropy began when I was a little girl, collecting food and clothes with my parents for those in need, especially during the holidays through our church and our community organizations. But when I was older, it was even more cemented by going with my mother, who was a registered nurse. And she helped families and neighbors in our community who had fallen on hard times and couldn't afford healthcare and medicine. And helping her tend to the sick and the ill, I learned the value of compassion, generosity, giving without expecting anything in return. And for my mother, I can't thank her enough for giving me that. And then later on to becoming a teacher and majoring in special education, primarily the deaf, where I learned the most important thing, that teaching is not just about knowledge, it's about connection. So it's also about empowering others to unlock their potential, especially those whose voices may not always be heard. We rise by lifting others was the first lesson I learned in the Driscoll business tenet, that true innovation, whether in education or business, starts with service. So as I grew into my role as an educator and then later as an entrepreneur, I began to see the parallels, Kathy, between the classroom and the world at large. And my family has always believed that giving takes three forms: time, treasure, and talent. We were taught from an early age that leadership is not about power, it's about purpose. If service is beneath you, leadership is beyond you.
Now, I have to stop you right there, because this is, when you said that quote to me, I think chills just engulfed me. I have not heard a quote that is this meaningful and this inspirational in, I think, my life. Because if at the core of that quote, it is so true, and there's so much truth to that quote, that no matter where you are in life, whether you're just starting or whether you're the CEO or whether you have on retirement path, if you don't live by that quote, by that, if service is beneath you, leadership is beyond you. That if you think you're better than others, you should never be in a leadership position.
100%.
Because you will absolutely, it's just so easy to quote someone as a leader, to, put a title on someone as a leader. But they fail outright in leading because they think they're above people. And that quote and that essence of that quote is just so awe-inspiring. And I think your family has made that quote so true that, as you said, you have the most humble background from someone who, could have plastered their name on every building, yes, or someone who could be jetting off to, every house on every coast that they could possibly own. But yet most people, when they hear of the Driscoll heir and the legacy, literally, like me, are thinking of course, the Driscoll, berries in the grocery store. But then they don't know the story of how much your family and you have done, because you don't want that infamy of paparazzi and the people knowing that this is what you did. You do it in such a humble manner that is really inspiring, and so many people could take a page out of your book that hopefully one day you will write. But they could take so many lessons from you as to how to do philanthropy and service and do it without asking for anything back. For all of you listening, I just want to say this one more time. If service is beneath you, leadership is beyond you. So for those who are, making a career for themselves, please, try and live by this quote, because it is just a quote that I think has inspired me ever since you said it to me, but also has continued to just re-emphasize the amount of service we all need to do. That if you've been given treasure, time, or talent, give back. Don't just hoard it for yourself. As they say, you can't take it with you. Whether you have a talent that you can give, or time you can give, or that treasure where you can write a check and, help someone monetarily, or all three. But I think the essence of what you just said is just do and give what you can. Obviously, I'm going to ask you the next question, because I think one of the things that you haven't been as modest about, but I will push your modesty out, is how much your family has actually done for the world of education. You mentioned, the School of Agriculture, but no one really knows that founded with your family.
That's right.
So if you could talk a little bit about that.
Most certainly. So back in the 1930s, there was a berry blight, and it was ravaging California, and it was decimating all of the crops. And understand that we weren't university educated. We're people of the land. My grandfather and his brothers, they had a high school education, but most certainly it wasn't a university degree. And they didn't know how to solve this. So one of the most important lessons we were taught, and by my father, was, what's your next best move? We all feel that we need to have the 100-page manuscript or, the guidelines to take us from point A to point B, but literally you need to stop where you're at and just go, what is the most important next thing I can do? What they did, knowing that they didn't have the education, they didn't have the resources to solve this problem, they went to the University of Berkeley. And there they spoke with Professor Harold Taylor. And Harold Taylor literally saved my family and the berries. And he came back with a solution that created, in tandem with Mr. Goldsmith, who later done a lot of work in the San Jose area, to put together a resource that could save the berries from this blight. So as time would have it, and as years went on, Berkeley was cutting their plant founding program. And so the breeders that were in the agricultural department, Professor Taylor in particular, were going to lose their job. So my family reached out to them and said, how would you like to come and work for us? We'll create your own institute. You'll have everything you need, and continue growing and working and creating the best possible solutions for farming and for our berries. So in tandem with Mr. Goldsmith in 1942, they opened up the Strawberry Institute of California. And there, these two gentlemen created a disease-free berry, which was unheard of at the time. But again, with all the resources that they had and housed in the Institute, Driscoll's shared it with the farmers that were in the community, always sharing what they knew, what they had. And as time went on, in which many people don't know, the Strawberry Institute morphed into UC Davis, their agricultural department.
And there's the story that most, I'm sure, do not know. I think it is absolutely a pillar of the history of this country, where your family has left so much, not just talent and treasure, but you have this history that you created for programs and universities to now continue your legacy in agriculture. And, to further, again, state what you said before, is you don't just help by writing a check. Your motto has been to actually help people self-sustain. And I know you mentioned one of the trips you did to Uganda was to actually help communities there, be able to self-sustain in the long term by giving them the resources to help farm so that they can actually continue doing that without you being there and self-sustain for, many generations to come. Hopefully that'll be the case. But the level of service always goes back to growth in the agriculture community to self-sustain. I want to interject a little bit because I know you have this amazing talent of an Irish accent. And you have some amazing advice that your grandmother had to give you about the lessons of success and advice she gave to inspire those to, continue working and succeeding. If you can give a little bit of what grandma instilled in you, and please share your accent.
Okay, it will be an absolute pleasure. So let me give you 3 pieces of Irish wisdom that my grandmother passed on to me. And I think that would be of service to the rest of your community as well.
Yes.
So the first was the trilogy of 10. What did that mean? So she taught us that take 10% of what you have and save it. The other 10%, tithe. Give it to God. Give it to the church. Give it to whatever organization you want. But here has to be the trick. It's got to feed your soul. It must feed your soul. And then the last was earn 10% more of what you had earned the year prior. So it was the trilogy of 10. So if you keep these 3 things in place, girl, then you're doing things right financially.
Yes.
Right. So then the other one, which I always loved, and this had to go with grandmother's philosophy about philanthropy, and I loved it. She would say, doing good for selfish reasons doesn't make you good. It makes you good at being selfish.
Amen, Grandma. Amen to that. I wish she was here with us, but I know she is listening. And for those of you that hear it from the Irish accent, I think it even, says more when you hear it in that Irish accent of how wise the generations before us were. And it's such simple advice that, give 10, give a little bit of what you've earned, give a little bit selflessly, right? I think some of us give and we expect something back. It's like, I do believe in karma myself, that if you are great to others and you give, the karma will come back to you and do the same in return. But I don't expect any of it to come back to me in the same regard, right? I think for those of you that wait for that, I give $1, I'll give $2, get $2 back. That's not how it works. But I think the wisdom she gave us is so inspiring. But one of the lessons also you shared with me is the keys to success are underneath your alarm clock.
Always, darling.
Oh,
that it is.
And I think that is such a great comment to say. It's like, the alarm clock goes off. You got to get out and do the work. It won't just magically happen.
You got to get up and get out there and work. And I think in the last part too, one of the most wonderful things that she said successful people have libraries. The rest have big screen TVs.
Yes.
There it is. So her philosophies on education and philanthropy and giving, but absolutely right. Get up and do the work. You must.
Yeah.
The keys to success are under the alarm clock. And in agriculture and in our family, it's not, I'll get out there and I'll do it today or maybe next week. No. You get up, rain and shine, and you do it. And it's that determination. And I think the most important thing that I have learned from others, and it's something that I do that has been instilled in my family and certainly from my mother, is if you do anything, if you only do one thing a day, it's make your bed.
Yeah.
Make your bed.
Yeah.
Make your bed allows you. And that is a military tactic. The military, the army, no one gets out of bed and not make it. You must have that sense of accomplishment to start your day. And I do it.
I agree. I think it's such a small part of our daily routine. And I think, the successful people are the people that have those routines. And they're so small when you just separate them, but in tandem and in consolidation, they are, you take every minute of the day and you actually do something worth doing. On that note, and Grandma's accent fully with us, one of the things I just wanted to, let everyone know, and I think this is the humble nature of your story, is if you could just take us back to one more story of your family. You obviously have focused on philanthropy now for the most part. You are the CEO of Dame Ventures, Ventures, and you spend most of your time now giving back. And, you obviously are into venture capital, but for the most part, it's all service and that need to give back to the community. And I think one of the cornerstones that you've, left upon me is that you always go back to the community angle. Like serve the people around you, make sure you talk to the people around you and do something in your town, in your farming village, or whatever it is that you're living in. And if you could just touch upon that inform, inspire, and innovate pillar that your family has led with, and how we can learn those lessons to do more ourselves.
Most certainly. I'll blend this a bit together. I'll go with what you have just mentioned previously and then weave it into where my family is today with it and where I am with today with it. So as you had said previously, and what the impact of the mantra of if service is beneath you, leadership is beyond you. I have to say that definitely that lesson shaped my philanthropy and business. But my great-grandfather gave each one of us a mandate, and that was to inform, to inspire, and innovate. And these pillars were set forth not only from him, but for the generations that followed, mine including. So being fourth generation Driscoll taught me the importance of listening, resilience, and quiet leadership. So unlike many families who sought the spotlight, as you were mentioning, we focused on building something lasting, an empire built on simple yet profound idea of serving others. There it is.
I love it.
So my family emphasized education as a tool for self-betterment, always, and giving as a way to connect to our communities. So from those lessons, I developed what I call higher purpose innovation. So this approach weaves together the wisdom of the past with the possibilities of the future, always guided by this one question: how may I serve and make life better for others? It's just where it is.
I think I mentioned this to you before, is your service motto and your family's history of service has been so important. And, we look back in our lives and there's that born and death date on a tombstone. And not to make things obviously a little morbid, but it is the honest end to a beginning and to an end. And I think that dash in the middle is what's so important. What did you get up? What will people remember about you and your family in that dash? How memorable will you have served your community, your family, others, so that dash is memorable? And I think your family's instilled in this country such a legacy, but also did it in such a way that was so humble and gracious that when you hear the story through your, words, you're just so inspiring that the lessons that you have shared with us here are just, will last forever. And I hope that one day whoever hears this podcast will also be inspired by your family and you yourself, and continue on that motto to continue through education, inspire, every day through a better means of whatever talent or time that they have.
I love it. And I'm going to give you what I never rarely talk about. So I'm going to give you that dash for your audience between the birth date and the death date, and what I have learned in the 150 years. And I think it's at the heart of our family's ethos, and it's become our business tagline. And it's create joy. So true leadership begins with the ability Kathy, to create joy, not just as an outcome, but as a way of being. So joy inspires connection. It fosters trust. It motivates teams to reach their fullest potential, quite simply. So like the berries we cultivate, joy thrives when we nurture with care, authenticity, and intention. So as leaders, our role is to cultivate an environment where challenges are met with optimism, collaboration flourishes, and every individual feels valued. So by embedding joy into our decisions, our actions, our culture, we not only uplift those we lead, but we also build something enduring and meaningful. So leadership is not just about achieving success. It's about creating moments of joy that ripple outward and leaving a lasting legacy. So through this lasting legacy, I've come to understand, most importantly, the power of self-discovery. And it's just not for myself, Kathy, but it's for those that I have the privilege to serve. So helping others find what they love and teaching them to parlay that into self-sustainability has been one of the most rewarding aspects of my journey. So whether empowering women in a refugee camp in Uganda to cultivate their own land and become the next stewards of their families and communities, or supporting foundations like Crystal Vision or Playing for Change, education has always been at the core of my family's mission and mine, to give where we grow. So going back to what we said earlier, my family's philanthropy has always focused on the three pillars of time, treasure, and talent. And emphasizing that meaningful giving requires more than resources. It demands intention. So supporting communities through agricultural education and self-reliance initiative reflects the very essence of what it means for me to be a Driscoll. And this legacy has taught me that innovation is not just about solving problems, but about creating opportunities for others to thrive. So it's a legacy I'm honored to carry forward, and ensuring that the seeds of today really grow into flourishing communities tomorrow. Just that simple, my dear.
I love it. And it's a legacy I'm honored to tell on this podcast. You are an inspiration to all of us. Dame Sheila, thank you wholeheartedly from the bottom of my heart for taking the time to sit down with me today and sharing this beautiful story. And for all of you who will forever go to the store and see a Driscoll Berry, please remember you have a Driscoll heir sitting and sharing her legacy with us. So again, thank you so much. We look forward to hearing the podcast comments after the fact. And for those of you, I hope you like and subscribe going forward. And we will be back hopefully one day with a movie and a book to further solidify this lovely legacy in hard copy.
It's been an honor. It's a pleasure. Thank you for letting me serve.
So for those of you that haven't yet left, beautiful story shared with us from Dame Sheila B. Driscoll about her family's legacy in the berry farming agricultural landscape. I wanted to ask her a few personal questions that I think some of you will love to hear from her. And one of them is, as I've said before, I have this comment of see it, be it, and how everyone can inspire everyone with their personal life story, with their talents, or whatever it is that they're great at. I know we all would love to be a fourth generation heir of some sort. However, not all of us are born, into those families, but we can all for sure start that family on our own. So for that generational success and starting our own path, Dame Sheila, what lesson would you intone upon us that would leave us to kind of ensure that the legacy that we start, like your family has started, will continue bringing joy and fulfillment in what we do?
You've been so gracious. So with the remaining time that's with us, I'm going to give you 10 lessons very succinctly that families would kill to know that most don't. and really what were the cornerstones of how my family has endured for the years that they have. But these are steeped in our core values. So I'm going to distill 150 years into our family's 10 tried and true lessons. So here we go. Number 1, lead by actions, not examples. So the values and wisdom children absorb come not from words, but from the actions from those around them. So embody the principles you wish to pass on through your daily conduct. 2, innovate for preservation. Generational success requires blending traditional values with fresh, innovative ideas. Invest resources wisely while fostering creativity and adaptability in the next generation. 3, here's what they don't do. Share knowledge through family mentorship. Create mentorship opportunities where older generations, like my grandmother, guide the younger ones, passing down wisdom in finance, philanthropy, and entrepreneurship to ensure knowledge preservation. 4, foster unity through family meetings. Maintain continuity by holding consistent family gatherings that serve as pillars of connection, collaboration, and shared purpose across generations. That's monumental. 5, document family stories and histories. Preserve your family's unique journey through written and recorded histories, ensuring that future generations understand their roots and the values that shape them. 6, balance wealth with purpose. Establish initiatives such as philanthropic venture funds to align financial growth with meaningful impact, ensuring that wealth serves both the family and society. 7, educate continuously. Offer educational opportunities such as financial educational sabbaticals or specialized programs to empower family members with the skills and confidence to manage resources effectively. 8, celebrate togetherness. Strengthen bonds through shared activities like family retreats, outings, and feasts, because these moments create cherished memories and reinforce a sense of unity. 9, here's what no one does: involve everyone in decision-making. So create inclusive processes such as a family think tank or investment symposiums to leverage the diverse perspectives of all members, young and old. And the last, embrace change with optimism. Approach challenges and transitions with resilience and forward thinking, and with that mindset, ensuring that your legacy evolves while staying rooted in core values. So in summation, Kathy, to those embarking on a journey of creating their own legacy, my advice is this, quite simply. Build a foundation of values, not just wealth. Let your actions speak louder than words, as leadership through action is the cornerstone of lasting influence. Blend tradition with innovation. Nurture the roots while planting fresh seeds of opportunity for future generations. Hold family gatherings, document your stories, and create spaces where every voice matters, fostering a culture of collaboration and connection. Celebrate the richness of life's moments, whether through a shared meal or an impromptu outing, for it is in these acts of togetherness that legacies are truly woven. And finally, my dear, face change not with fear, but with optimism, understanding that every challenge is an opportunity to evolve while staying true to the principles that define you. A legacy that lasts is not built overnight, but cultivated daily with purpose, grace, and love. And there you have it.
I love it. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much again. For those of you that heard these top lessons, 10 is such a succinct way of putting it all together, but they are so true and so everlasting that if you do hit on all 10, you have a success formula for sure. And also, I hope to have added to number 5 on your list to be here in physical, recording and help one day tell your story.
Thank you.
So I am so privileged again to be here with you and for you to share your wisdom and your family's legacy with us all. Thank you once again. But one last question, because I love asking this question.
Mm-hmm.
If you could take yourself back to your 18-year-old self, what would you tell yourself that would be a piece of advice from all the lessons you have learned?
Ooh, that is a good one. I would say if I could sit down with my 18-year-old self, I would offer this wisdom. Do not break your own rules. Do not cross your own boundaries. And remember that while a few people may deserve a second chance, no one, absolutely no one, deserves a third.
Oh, I love that. That is words of wisdom for you all youngings that need some words of inspiration from a Driscoll heir herself. And life lessons that all of us, I'm sure, when we are, of a certain age, will say the same thing back to the children that we are raising, and the, inspirational stories we want to tell those generations behind us to say exactly what you've shared with us. So Dame Sheila Driscoll, again, thank you so much for your inspirational story. I am forever touched by your words and your graciousness. And I hope to forever be humbled enough to, continue the work that you've said on this podcast of service. So thank you so much. And the Top Lessons podcast thanks you. The audience, I hope you appreciate this. And again, if we hear enough comments or anything else in the future, we may actually ask her back to share another version of her Irish accent story and bring back some of the Driscoll legacy in more detail. So thank you once again, and I wish you a beautiful day ahead.
Thank you, my dear. It's an absolute honor and pleasure.
Thank you.
Mwah. Thank you.
Bye.